If you would have told me a few years ago that this would become my life, I never would have believed you. Back then, I didn't know who I was. I didn't know where I belonged. I just knew I wanted something more. That's why I ultimately ended up on Route 66. Throughout high school, I had battled depression. Like a lot of people, those were some of the hardest years of my life. I was surrounded by people every day, and yet I felt completely alone. It didn't help that the one person I thought was a friend started a rumor about me that was so vile, I didn't even know what to believe anymore. In my mind, I was a loner, and always would be. I was someone that no one liked or ever would. Someone who, despite how hard he tried and the things he achieved, he would never be good enough. He would always be a failure. And after a while, you start to believe that's just who you are. There were times where it got really dark. Times where I didn't even know if I wanted to be here anymore. And as I made my way through college, I started to wonder, were these feelings ever going to go away? My biggest dream in life had always been to go to space. I always found so much peace and beauty amongst the night sky. So naturally, I went to college for aerospace engineering. It didn't matter that engineering wasn't really something that made me happy. It didn't matter that becoming an astronaut was one of the hardest jobs in the world to get. I just kept telling myself it would all work out. But deep down, something didn't feel right. People would always ask me what would make me happy, and I never really had an answer. I would just kind of shrug it off, because I thought the answer was supposed to be something more logical, something you could plan for, something you could work towards. But I didn't really know what that was supposed to be anymore. But there was one thing that always made me feel different. Traveling. Ever since I was a kid, my family would take me on road trips and vacations, and I remember always feeling emotional whenever they were about to end. There was just something about being on the road that made life feel bigger. As I got older, though, I started treating travel like it was something temporary, something you squeezed into life whenever you had the time or the money. Not something you could actually build your life around. But deep down, outside of becoming an astronaut, the earliest dream I can remember having was to travel the country and become an artist. I just never really believed a life like that was actually possible. And then an opportunity came along that unexpectedly changed everything. My college's TRIO program was taking 4 students to a national leadership conference in Orlando, Florida. All expenses paid. The only catch? You had to write an essay on leadership. Now, most people heard that and immediately lost interest. But I loved writing, so I figured I had nothing to lose. And somehow, my essay ended up getting selected. And just like that, I was on my way to Florida. Looking back now, I don't think I realized it at the time. But that trip planted seeds that would eventually change the direction of my entire life. One of the speakers at the conference asked us to do something simple. He handed everyone a slip of paper and told us to write down our biggest fear. Then, one by one, People walked up to the stage and threw those fears into a fake fire. At first, it felt kind of cheesy, but when I actually stopped to think about it, I realized my biggest fear wasn't failure itself. It was living a life where I never even tried. What none of us realized was that he was going to read some of those fears out loud. And as he did, people around the room would snap if they related to them. Fear of failure, fear of not being enough, fear of regret. And suddenly, all these things I thought I was carrying alone didn't feel quite as isolating anymore. At the end of the conference, they asked us one final question. How would you want to be remembered? What kind of impact would you want to leave behind? And if your entire life was only known by these answers, would you actually be happy with the life you lived? I remember sitting there for a long time thinking about it. Eventually, I narrowed it down to 3 things. I wanted to make the world a better place. I wanted to achieve my dream against all odds. And more than anything, I wanted to help bring happiness to the people around me. From that point forward, those 3 things became the compass for my life. But naturally, life started testing me. Come 2020, even before the pandemic, my mental health had been declining. The loss of Kobe Bryant, the person I was named after, my friend group falling apart, and then the pandemic on top of it all. Suddenly I was trying to do advanced chemistry, calculus 3, and physics online with a professor who barely even had internet access at home. I kept trying to push through it, but eventually I hit a breaking point. I just couldn't do it anymore. So I decided to step away from college for a while and go back to working at Walmart with my old boss. I would be working in the grocery pickup department, so at least with everything going on in the world at the time, I felt like I could make a positive difference. And honestly, that's what I needed. For so long, I had been focused on what I was supposed to become someday that I stopped paying attention to what was happening right in front of me. For the first time in a long time, my life felt simple. Show up, work hard, help people, and simply take things one day at a time. Somewhere along the way, I met someone who would become one of my closest friends. For the sake of privacy, we'll call him Mark. Mark and I quickly became attached at the hip. Both of us were going through difficult chapters in our lives, and we helped each other carry the weight of them. For the first time in years, I felt like I had someone who genuinely understood what I was going through. Around this same time, I discovered a YouTube channel called Yes Theory. Their message was simple. Some of the best things in life exist just outside your comfort zone. The idea was called Seek Discomfort. At first, it sounded completely backwards. Most of us spend our lives trying to become more comfortable. But the more I listened, the more I started to wonder if they were right. Because every meaningful thing I had ever done in my life started with doing something that scared me. Another message I couldn't seem to get out of my head came from a movie called Clouds. The film told the story of Zach Zobiak, a young musician diagnosed with terminal cancer. For several years, I had been raising money for childhood cancer research through the Great Cycle Challenge, so naturally, his story caught my attention. But it wasn't the movie that stayed with me. It was something Zach said. You don't have to find out you're dying to start living. The more I thought about those words, the more they challenged the way I was living my very life. For years I had been telling myself that happiness could wait, that life would begin after college, after I became an astronaut, after everything finally fell into place. Well, what if that day never came? What if I was spending so much time preparing for life that I had forgotten to actually live it? Not long after that, life gave me a very personal reminder that tomorrow isn't guaranteed. In August, I had to say goodbye to my cat, Pepper. Pepper had originally belonged to someone who passed away, and after spending more than a year at a local animal shelter, I eventually brought her home. She entered my life shortly after high school, and had been there through nearly everything that followed. The good days, the difficult days, the uncertainty. She was always there. Losing her hit me harder than I expected. And while I was still trying to process that loss, another painful conversation followed. Mark told me that his family wasn't comfortable with him being around me because of me being bisexual and my struggles with depression. I remember just sitting there trying to make sense of it all. A week earlier, I had lost Pepper. Now it felt like I was losing one of my closest friends, too. At the time, it felt like everything I had spent years fighting against was suddenly being proven right. The loneliness, the self-doubt, the fear that who I was would always be too much for people. I had spent years trying to convince myself those thoughts weren't true. But in that moment, maybe all those fears I'd carried since high school were true after all. And for one of the lowest points in my life, I felt completely lost. As I sat there trying to make sense of everything, one question kept popping back into my head. What would make me happy? This time, I stopped thinking about what sounded practical, what sounded responsible or logical, and instead, I started thinking about what I actually wanted. And for as long as I can remember, Route 66 had been a dream of mine. Not because I was searching for anything in particular, but because something about the open road had always called to me. The freedom, the adventure, the possibilities. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized I was running out of excuses. Life wasn't waiting for me. Tomorrow wasn't guaranteed. So I decided it was time to stop planning for someday and to finally make it happen. Minneapolis! So, made it to my halfway point for day one now. Not gonna lie, I was shaking just a little bit with the traffic when I got to Minneapolis. Wasn't too bad along the way, but two of the traffic lights were out, so did not like that very much for my first major city driving lesson. But right now, I'm in the drive-thru waiting on Portillo's. I got 2 chili dogs, my favorite. If you're ever in Minneapolis, if you're ever in Chicago, you need to get Portillo's, especially Chicago. You cannot take a trip to Chicago without getting Portillo's. So, didn't have much problems on the way here. We had one moment where I tried to pass someone and the vehicle started to act up a little bit once I hit 70, so I'm kind of taking it slow and easy. But yeah, just about to grab my lunch, and it is snowing really heavy here now. Like, I don't even know if you guys can see this. Let's see. No, I can't flip my camera around. It's snowing bad. Heavy flakes. But yeah, grab my lunch, eat quick, and then I have about 3.5 hours and I'll be down in Iowa now. So I'll update everybody later on tonight.
Well, if you ever plan to motor west, take my way. That's the highway, that's the best. Get your kicks on Route 66. Well, it winds from Chicago to LA. More than 2,000 miles all the way. Get your kicks on Route 66.
So, hiccup number 1. I am currently at the halfway point. I am about 7 hours early, 7 hours ahead of schedule. But, halfway point, so everyone back home is about 15 hours away. And my uncles in Arizona, who I'm meeting, are also 15 hours away. Well, I just fueled up on gas and was going to give the vehicle a little bit of a break, so I was coming to the Walmart that originally I was going to stay the night at. And I stopped at the intersection next to the Walmart. The vehicle died on me. So, currently trying to figure out what to do in this scenario. But I mean, to be expected, you can't expect to go across the entire country and not have a single problem. I hoped for the best but prepared for the worst. I mean, the vehicle was looked at. They gave me the okay, said there was no reason why I shouldn't be able to drive it. I'm currently looking. I'm going to check my battery, make sure the battery's holding a charge. Just refueled it. Got the fluids checked. I'm just gonna give it a bit, I guess. I'll sit here, wait a couple hours, and read or something. Kill some time, and probably head back out on the road tonight. See how that goes. But, yeah. I don't know. Only natural that it happens at the halfway mark, though. Only natural. So, I'm gonna get back to doing this. Okay, so here's the plan. There's a place called TP Quiroz in New Mexico, I believe it is. It is along Route 66. It is a locally owned family business that is a must stop for me. I want to support the family business, local business, and I just want to see it. It's a historic spot on Route 66. So the plan is, it is 5 hours away from where I am right now. It closes at 6. I am not going to make it. I'll be half an hour late, but they open 8 a.m. tomorrow. So what I'm doing is I'm going to be going 2 hours from here to my overnight location, and that way I'll test out the van to an extent, but it's not really pushing it far again for the rest of the day. And that way I'll be to my overnight location before it's dark. And yeah, then tomorrow, drive another 3 hours and I'll get to check out the store. There's a Route 66 museum. I'm gonna see if that's open. I'll stop there, kind of sightsee a little bit starting tomorrow now. So that's the plan, and depending on how well the vehicle goes and everything, we'll just keep going. About 15 hours away from Arizona now, so I'll be there in another day or two tops.
When it goes from St. Louis, Joplin, Missouri, Oklahoma City looks so pretty. You'll see Amarillo, Gallup, New Mexico, Flagstaff, Arizona. Don't forget Winona, Canaan, Paso, San Bernardino. Won't you get hip to this time of tip and take that California trip? Get your kicks on Route 66.
I've officially made it now. Currently in Quartzsite, Arizona. That is, let's see, 15 states I've been to in my lifetime now. Went to the meteor crater. That was freaking amazing. And oh my god, they don't even try to hide it. Their gift shop is literally labeled as expensive gift shop. Yeah, I need to get out of there quick before I blew a bunch of money. They actually have like huge, like basketball sizes of meteorites, and they have actual like heat shields and stuff from actual shuttles that have been launched, and all that's for sale in the gift shop. But as you can imagine, it cost a pretty penny. One thing that I've wanted for years though that I ended up getting there is a necklace that has a small piece of an actual meteor on it. So got that finally. I bought a really nice shirt. I couldn't pass the shirt up. It's got like a wolf on it howling and a UFO, and it says meteor crater on the bottom. I got a NASA backpack that has like some patches on it. So I got when I was at the gift shop, I bought that Route 66 one. Well, here I bought one that says meteor crater on it, and it shows the crater and a little meteor coming in. I bought a little pin, a little collector's meteor crater pin that I could put on my Walmart uniform. So, I think that's everything I got there. But yeah, that was freaking awesome. The drive wasn't too bad today. Basically got into the hills. That was a little exciting. About 7,000 elevation or so, and then coming back down. Ears popped a couple times, but made it, and it was a beautiful sight. Made it here just in time for sunset. And now I'm all tucked in for the night and just relaxing. Figured I'd make a video letting everybody know I made it. As soon as I met up with my uncles in Arizona, something started to change. Up until that point, Route 66 had been an adventure, a chance to get away, a chance to clear my head. But spending time with them showed me something I had never seriously considered before. That this lifestyle wasn't just a vacation. It wasn't something reserved for retirees or people with endless money. There were actually people living this way full time, traveling, exploring, waking up somewhere different whenever they wanted. And the more places we visited, the more people I met, the more I started to realize I wasn't just falling in love with Route 66. I was falling in love with a completely different way of life. So, once we started getting close to Altman was when the drive got really fun for me. because I realized we were on Route 66 again. The route brought us through the mountains this time, just literally straight through them. I think the elevation towards the top was about 3,500, and the drive up was a little interesting. Not only do you have the amazing, beautiful views, but a majority of the drive does not have railings at all. So you're driving straight up these mountains, a lot of curves, and you literally have no safety rail. To the right of you is literally just a drop-off cliff. So, at first I wasn't that nervous about it, but then realizing that twice I've had vehicle problems where the steering likes to suddenly seize up and get tighter on me. Once that kind of clicked into my head, that was all I could think about as we were driving up those mountains. Obviously we did make it though, so that's great news. But another thing it blew my mind. So we're going up these mountains. We had to stop twice for some burros. So burro, for those who don't know, is the Spanish word for donkey. And there were wild burros up in the mountains. They literally can be seen throughout the entire town, and like I said, we had to stop twice in the mountain as they were sitting in the road. One of them I thought was really cool because it had a complete white coat to it. It was just completely different from the rest. It was completely white. I've never seen one like that, so that really caught my attention. I did not take any pictures of the ones on the roads because, like I said, we were literally on the edge of a cliff. Lots of curves, so even though we were stopped, I personally did not feel comfortable taking out my phone and trying to take pictures in that exact spot. Oatman, though, it's a town from the 1890s, like I said. It boomed from 1910 to the 1920s, though, because World War I was being partially funded by the gold that was mined. It was originally called Blue Ridge Camp, but the name was changed to Oatman in 1909. They estimate that about 8,000 people had lived here, many of them bringing the burros to haul the rock and the ore out of the mines. The mines were then used for copper during World War II. A lot of the copper from World War II was taken out of these mines, but they closed for the first time in 1942, and it was at that time the burros were released into the hills of Oatman. Some of the fun facts I learned is they have a lifespan of about 30 to 35 years, and they're able to smell water as far as 20 miles away. So the burros not only survived, but they had offspring, and that caused what you see the wild burros on the roads. So the northern part of Oatman is actually slightly newer than the southern end due to the Great Fire of 1921. There was a fire there that burned down a majority of the buildings in the northern part of town. However, the southern part was saved, and it's filled with buildings and items from the 1890s. The town itself has a lot to offer, from watching duels in the middle of town, two people dressed up as cowboys, middle of the town, people gather around in a circle and watch them, and from what I've heard, the money goes to children's charity or something along those lines. I didn't unfortunately get to watch. By the time I got there, they were wrapping up, so I didn't get to check that out. But you could also visit stores and restaurants. The entire main road basically is just tourist stores, restaurants, um, seeing all these items like an 1897 jail cell, seeing an old safe, seeing what the miners lived like, their bed, their basically their room, um, going into a mine itself and adventuring in the mine a little bit. It was definitely a really cool experience, and I'm looking forward to going back someday. The longer I stayed in Arizona, the more I started to realize this wasn't just a trip anymore. Somewhere along the way, Route 66 had become something different. It wasn't just about the road, it was about who I was becoming on it. For the first time, I could actually see the kind of life I wanted to live. Not someday, but something real. At the same time, something unexpected happened. The friendship I thought I had lost started finding its way back into my life. Mark and I began talking again, and what once felt like an ending started feeling like something else entirely. As the weeks went on, I found myself doing things I never would have considered before. I watched the sunset over the Grand Canyon. I explored places I had only ever dreamed about seeing. And then, I decided to face one of my biggest fears: heights. In Eloy, Arizona, I boarded a plane and prepared to do something I never thought I'd actually have the courage to do. I was going skydiving. If you had asked me just a few months earlier if I would ever jump out of an airplane, I would have laughed. Because even when I wrote it down on my bucket list years ago, I never truly believed I'd actually do it. But now, here I was, thousands of feet above the desert, standing at an open door, heart racing, hands shaking, and the fear was still there. But it wasn't in control anymore. And as I looked out over the Arizona desert, I knew I had a choice. I could stay where it was safe, or I could jump.
Nice. Take off those goggles for me. Take off your goggles. So what did you think? You think you'll come do it again?
Oh yeah,
Yeah?
absolutely.
And you're gonna come join us, right?
Oh yeah.
Nice, nice one. Sweet. That was a good one, Aaron.
In many ways, that moment summed up everything the journey had become. I hadn't left Michigan for a trip. I hadn't just been traveling Route 66. Something in me had changed. I was becoming someone I didn't fully recognize yet, but someone I was starting to understand. I had taken chances, stepped into discomfort, and learned that most of the limits I thought I had were the ones I had placed on myself. When I finally came down from the sky, I already knew I wouldn't be the same when I went back home. When it was finally time to head home, I decided not to tell anyone, posting old pictures from Arizona to make it look like I was still there. And instead, I surprised them.
So everybody wants to see your reaction.
What the fuck? Where's the even Parkman? Oh my god.
Out front.
Oh my god.
As exciting as it was to be back, something felt different. For the first time in my life, I had found a place where I truly felt like I belonged. Not because of a job, not because of the scenery, but because of who I became while I was there. I had left Michigan searching for peace and adventure. Instead, I discovered a version of myself I never knew existed. Someone willing to take chances, to face fear head on, to embrace the unknown instead of running from it. Coming home made me realize something I never expected. It wasn't Michigan that had changed, it was me. I loved seeing my family again. I loved rebuilding my friendship with Mark. Being back brought a lot of happiness. But underneath all of that, there was a feeling I just simply couldn't ignore. For years, I had been searching for where I belonged, for what would make me happy, and I always assumed I would find it someday, through a career, a relationship, or simply by getting older. But instead, I found it somewhere between the Arizona desert, the open road, and the person I was becoming. And once you've experienced that, it's almost impossible to go back to the way things were before. Not because your old life was bad, but because you've seen what's possible. The hardest part about coming home was realizing that home no longer felt like where I belonged. The decision had already been made. I wasn't asking myself if I wanted to go back. I was figuring out how.
Hey everyone. So I haven't posted a video in quite a while, but it's been because I've been pretty busy in good ways. Coming back from Arizona, I knew the van life and the nomad lifestyle was something I really wanted to dive more into. Diving into this nomad lifestyle has required me to make some difficult choices. I've had to give up some of my prized belongings, one of which was a drum set. For as long as I can remember, I've loved music, and drumming was something that got me through some very difficult points in my life. So to finally get rid of my drum set, to sell my drum set, was something very difficult for me to do. But a good friend of mine who produces music actually purchased from me, so I know it's going to a good home. He let me play it when I dropped it off and delivered it to him, and he said I'm always welcome to come back and play it whenever I'm in the area, so that really means a lot to me. Along with that, when I was in college, a way I went about making friends in college was through board game nights, and I ended up taking all my board games and card games and donating it to a local business here in Ironwood called Holmes Hobby. It was a place where basically I just started to make my friendships in college. I wasn't a very social guy, and one day Holmes Hobby had an event where you could come in and play games for free and just hang out, and I went, and before I knew it, I had a group of friends that every single night we sat down and for hours on end we played board games. So while it was hard to give up those board games as well, I know that's also going to a good place, and I hope that it could help somebody else and create some more wonderful memories like they did for me. With most of my stuff sold and donated, I had to start cleaning up my apartment here and emptying it out. Anything that couldn't be donated, I took about 3 bags of clothes and I donated 3 large garbage bags worth of clothes. Anything that couldn't be donated though or sold, I just basically gave away to anyone that wanted it. Everything else just got trashed. So the other day, right before the garbage truck came to empty out our dumpster here at the apartments, I filled out about 8 garbage bags full of stuff in my apartment and I just threw it away. I let it go.
Plan had seemed simple: find a camper, get back on the road, and start building the life I already decided I wanted. But life had other plans. Around that same time, Rocky, a dog I already knew well because of Mark, suddenly needed a home. The thought of him ending up with complete strangers just didn't sit right with me. So I made another decision, and I brought him home. Looking back now, I thought I was rescuing Rocky, but in many ways, Rocky was rescuing me. Such a good boy, Rocky. Such a good boy. But bringing Rocky with me also meant my original plan had to change a little bit. I was no longer just looking for a way to travel. I needed something that could become a home for both of us. At the same time, everything was moving faster than I ever expected. My lease had ended, winter was approaching in Michigan's Upper Peninsula, and despite finally having the money I needed, finding a camper proved almost impossible. Then, with time running out, I found something I never expected to call home. Now it was time to turn that decision into reality. I had Rocky beside me, a home on wheels, and I was finally heading west again. But I quickly learned the road doesn't always go the way you imagine. Just days into this new chapter, I found myself facing my first major challenge. And for the first time, I had to figure out what happens when the dream you've worked so hard to build suddenly starts to fall apart. Today is the 6th day that I've been stranded in New Mexico with my bus. Um, it started on Christmas Day. When I'm driving, all of a sudden the vehicle just kind of starts jolting and it dies when it's going up or down a hill. Sometimes it just dies on a flat incline. Um, it cost me $448 to have it towed 15 miles by chain one day. And then it cost me another 267 to have it towed another time to a shop. And I just paid a shop $560 yesterday, and they were thinking it was good to go. I would have no problem getting to where I need to be. I'm only 8 hours away, and Oh, excuse me, it's kind of cold here. Uh, yeah, I paid him $560 yesterday. We got new fuel filters replaced. We got the starter was out, so that needed to be replaced. A couple relays needed to be replaced. So altogether, I've spent over $1,200, and I'm still in the same exact position as I originally was in. I left the shop last night and I only made it 10 miles before I broke down on the interstate, and they towed me to an auto zone for the night. Um, I've been dealing with teens and 20s for the temperatures at night. That's why the camera's a little shaky right now. My hand's a little cold. It snowed a couple inches here last night as well. Thank you guys. I'll keep you updated, and hopefully I could get back on the road soon.
At that point, I had no idea how or when this was going to end, but I did know one thing. I wasn't ready to give up.
Hey everyone. So, this past Christmas, it finally happened, and discomfort was brought on a whole new level. A level I never wanted to experience. The bus broke down, leaving me stranded for 9 days in New Mexico. From 2 different tows to several different parts to sleeping in the bus of a junkyard with guard dogs and coyotes in 20-degree weather. But if I can't get this bus up and running, I might just have to abandon the bus and practically everything I own and grab a suitcase or a backpack, because I don't even have my suitcase. Yeah, I'm gonna have to grab a backpack and fill it with clothes and have my uncle come pick me up and grab my food and Rocky's food and grab the tent, and we'll just have to stay in the tent until I find a new vehicle. I don't know if it's the transmission. I don't know what to think. Finally, I get a hold of a tow truck, and he calls up this junkyard, and they are mechanics. I get told there. That's about 20 miles. Cost me $267. At this point, I'm very shady. It's a junkyard. They got guard dogs. I have Rocky. I need to let him out to go to the bathroom. I'm not liking this at all. Fast forward a couple days. I'm sleeping in their yard. You hear the guard dogs barking and the coyotes howling, and let's just say those are going to be nights I never forget. Come to find out, they're working on this part. There's a wire, a ground wire. Whatever you do, do not damage that wire. And the guy who had gotten out of prison and was homeless, working on the bus, he cut that ground wire when he was working on it the other day. So it caused me to stay in town an extra 3-4 days. And as soon as they replaced that ground wire and hooked up that part, the bus was good as new. Ran smoothly. Drove it for 9 hours. Left it idling when I slept that night. And once I drove the 9 hours to get to my uncle's, that was that.
After nearly 2 weeks of uncertainty, I had finally made it to Arizona. And despite everything that had happened, I knew one thing with absolute certainty. I was exactly where I wanted to be.
Go, baby. You gotta be right on top of me. You gotta keep itching closer and closer.
Woke up in London yesterday, found myself in the city near Piccadilly. Don't really know how I got here. I got some pictures on my phone, new names and numbers that I don't know. Address to places like Abbey Road, day turns to night turns to whatever we want. We're young enough to say, oh, this has gotta be a good life. This has gotta be a good life. This could really be a good life, good life. I say, oh, this feeling that you can't fight. The city is on fire tonight. This could really be a good life, a good, good life. To my friends in New York, I say hello. My friends in LA, they don't know where I've been for the past few years or so. Paris to China to Colorado. Sometimes there's airplanes I can't jump out. Sometimes it's bullshit that don't work now. We got our stories, but please tell me what there's to complain about. When you're happy like a fool, you let it take you over. When everything is out, you gotta take it in. Oh, this has gotta be a good life. This has gotta be a good life. This could really be a good life, good life. I say, oh, this feeling that you can't fight. The city is on fire tonight. This could really be a good life, a good, good life.
Those months on the road gave me memories I will forever cherish. But one conversation with my uncle has always stayed with me. When I first arrived in Arizona after my breakdown, one of the first things he asked me was if I regretted leaving Michigan. After everything I had gone through, being stranded for nearly 2 weeks, spending thousands of dollars, and not knowing if the bus would make it, my answer was immediate: absolutely not. And that's when he laughed and told me that he knew I truly loved the lifestyle, because I had just experienced what many people would consider a nomad's worst nightmare, and without hesitation, I still couldn't imagine being anywhere else. That first trip across Route 66 led me to discover the answer to a question I had always wondered about: what would make me happy? The answer wasn't a specific place, it wasn't a job, it wasn't some perfect version of life where everything finally made sense. The answer was simply finding the courage to chase something that mattered to me, to take a leap into the unknown, and to embrace the adventure, uncertainty, and mystery that came with it. When I first left to head out west, I thought I was just taking some time away from the life I had always known. But in reality, I was creating a life that actually felt like mine. A life that gave me freedom and happiness, but also challenges and discomfort. Because the truth is, finding the life you love doesn't mean everything becomes easy. It simply means the difficult moments become worth pushing through. So, what would make you happy? I think that's a question everyone has to answer for themselves. Maybe it is traveling the world. Maybe it's starting something new. Or maybe it's simply taking the first step towards something you've always wanted to do. You don't have to live my kind of life to find happiness. You just have to be willing to chase yours. Because sometimes the greatest discoveries in life aren't the places we find. They're the person we become along the way. And if something scares you, it might just be a sign you're doing it right. And while that journey changed my life forever, it was only the beginning.